Quick disclaimer. Information in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be treated as medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare team before making changes to your diet, lifestyle, supplementation, or medication.
If you think prediabetes means keeping your numbers not too high or just good enough is okay, think again. In this episode, we're unpacking why aiming for normal blood glucose levels isn't just possible, it's life-changing for you.
Welcome to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, the place where we chat about what really works to treat type 2 diabetes and prediabetes naturally with nutrition and lifestyle. If you're looking to optimize blood sugar and A1C, lose weight, reduce medications, and improve your overall health, this is the place to be. Now, here's your host, Type 2 Diabetes Nutrition Specialist, Dr. Jetta.
Hello, wonderful people, and welcome back to Type 2 Diabetes Talk, episode 72. We've got two great things to cover today. First, something that's foundational to treating prediabetes effectively, and that's blood glucose goals. If you've been recently diagnosed with prediabetes, you might feel a bit unsure about what your numbers should look like. And even if you've had prediabetes a while, you may still be confused about what target goals are best to aim for. We'll be breaking it all down, what normal blood glucose levels actually look like, why aiming for normal is so important, particularly in prediabetes, and how these goals can change your health for the better. And here's the best part, we're not just talking about theory today. Later in the episode, we'll be hearing from one of our members, Paul, who shared his story of reversing his prediabetes back to normal glucose levels. Paul shares some realizations, challenges, and insights that I'm sure you'll find inspiring as well. So let's start today by briefly touching on a question that may seem obvious to some people, but for new listeners or members or those newly diagnosed, you may still be grappling to understand. A question, and that is, what is prediabetes? So in brief, prediabetes is one of those terms that might sound more alarming than it often feels, especially if you're newly diagnosed. Or you might hear it and think, well, it's not diabetes, so it's not that serious, right? Or you might hear it and totally freak out, thinking your life is going to end and feel scared of getting diabetes. Without a doubt, prediabetes is a warning sign, a flashing yellow light telling you it's time to stop. Reevaluate things, make some changes to prioritize yourself and your health. It's not something to take lightly. No, it's not diabetes, but it could be if you do nothing about it. But it's not something to freak out about either. Since prediabetes is a warning sign, it gives you an amazing opportunity to prioritize yourself and your health, and for most people, you can reverse prediabetes back to normal. So back to the question, what is prediabetes? Prediabetes happens when your blood sugar levels are higher than normal, but they're not high enough to be diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. So think of it as the in-between stage. Diabetes develops on a spectrum over years, so you're in that in-between stage now. Blood sugar isn't in the normal range, but it's not in the diabetes range. So here's the thing. During this stage, your body is already struggling to a certain degree. This is obvious since your body is having difficulties controlling blood sugar. You may also have other symptoms like weight gain, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol levels. So the driver of all these symptoms and a central cause of prediabetes is insulin resistance. That means your cells aren't responding as well to insulin, the hormone that helps move sugar from your blood into your cells for energy. When this happens, sugar starts to build up in your bloodstream. Over time, high blood sugar, high levels of insulin, and insulin resistance, these can cause damage to your blood vessels, your nerves, and even your organs. That's why prediabetes isn't something to ignore. It's your chance to hit pause, reevaluate, and start being proactive to reverse the course of your health before it progresses to type 2 diabetes. So what's encouraging about prediabetes is that, for most people, it's not permanent. It's not a diagnosis you have to live with forever. With the right steps like improving your nutrition, moving your body more, and focusing on blood sugar management, you can reverse prediabetes. The point is, you're still in the driver's seat. You have the power to take action and prioritize yourself to protect your long-term health. So as we dive deeper into your blood glucose goals, I want you to remember prediabetes is not necessarily a life sentence. Yes, it's a wake-up call and one you can respond to with confidence and determination. Next, let's talk about blood glucose goals. When you're told you have prediabetes, the advice we hear people often receive is just to keep your numbers from creeping into the diabetes range. Well, I want to challenge that. Why settle for staying just above the line when you can aim for normal? Normal blood glucose levels are where you'll feel your best and where you can truly reverse prediabetes. And for most people with prediabetes, getting back to normal glucose levels is entirely possible. So let's talk about what those normal numbers are and why they matter. First, fasting blood glucose. That's the number your doctor checks after you haven't eaten for at least 8 hours, or one you might test at home using a blood glucose monitor first thing in the morning. But when your doctor checks it, the pre-diabetes range is 100 to 125 milligrams per deciliter or 6.1 to 6.9 millimoles per litre. That's the diagnostic range, the range that tells you you have prediabetes. But here's the thing, normal fasting blood glucose is under 100 milligrams per deciliter or under 6 millimoles per litre. So your target goal for fasting blood glucose is to aim under 100 or under 6. So we're sharing both the milligrams per deciliter and the millimoles per litre because depending where you live in the world, these are measured differently. Then there's your post-meal blood sugar, your postprandial levels. This is what your blood sugar looks like 2 hours after you eat. It's a window into how well your body is processing, particularly the carbohydrates in your meal. So with prediabetes, your goal is to aim for under 140 milligrams per deciliter or under 7.8 millimoles after meals. And of course, aiming for a lower range, for example, 110 to 120, that's 6.1 to 6.7. Well, these levels are still within the normal range, of course, because they're under 140 or under 7.8. But as a postprandial number, it's an even tighter range to aim for that can lead to better A1C results as well. So overall, under 140 or under 7.8 after meals is your target goal, and then you can play around with getting those numbers into an even tighter range. And finally, A1C, the big picture. Your A1C is an average of your blood sugar over the past 3 months, and A1C is most commonly reported as a percentage. Prediabetes is diagnosed at 5.7% to 6.4% in the US, and most other places the prediabetes diagnostic range is 6 to 6.4%. In the UK and some other places, A1C is reported in millimoles per mole, so the diagnostic range is 42 to 47, and this means the same thing. It just translates to 6 to 6.4%. It's just a different measurement to report it. Yes, it can be confusing with all the different numbers used, but that's just the way it is. So with prediabetes, what is your target A1C level? Well, it's aiming for normal. Normal is under 5.7% or around 39. And for those of you in other countries where they set the criteria at under 6, really aiming for under 5.7 is still ideal, or under 39. So think even lower, perhaps. Set your target. This is your long-term target. So set your target at 5.5% or 37 as your target goal. That's ideally where you want to be. And of course, if you can get it closer to 5.3% or 5.4%, that's 35 or 36, that's even better. But again, start with a goal of 5.5% or 37. That doesn't mean, of course, that if you're just under the target range, that's still not effective. Even if you're maintaining your A1C level at the higher end of normal, that's still a good thing. The point is that keeping your A1C in the ideal normal ranges is where the real magic happens for you in reducing your long-term risk for type 2 diabetes and other complications. If you're in the normal range, you effectively have reversed your pre-diabetes. Now, why aim for normal? Elevated blood sugar, well, let's just say it's not normal, and it does cause stress and damage to our body over time. But when you aim for normal, you're not just avoiding type 2 diabetes, you are actually reversing the process that leads to it. You're giving your body the best chance to heal because you're providing the optimal environment that your body naturally thrives in, one with normal blood glucose and A1C levels. So some of you might be wondering, is it really possible to get back to normal? And I want to say, yes, it absolutely is. I've seen it happen time and time again with the right approach. And I'd encourage you to listen to episode 61, where we talked more about reversing prediabetes and covered some common questions. So let me just recap your blood glucose targets with prediabetes. You want to be aiming for normal levels. Normal fasting level is under 100 milligrams per deciliter or under 6 millimoles per litre. Normal postprandial level is under 140 milligrams per deciliter or under 7.8 millimoles. And aiming for a normal A1C under 5.7% or 39 is your goal. So let's talk about something that's not always emphasised when it comes to prediabetes, and that's monitoring your blood sugar at home. For many people with prediabetes, blood glucose monitoring isn't something that's typically recommended by doctors or healthcare providers. It's often seen as something reserved for people with type 2 diabetes. But monitoring your blood sugar at home can be one of the most empowering tools you can use to improve your health. And here's why. When you monitor your blood sugar, you're collecting real-time feedback from your body. It's like your personal health dashboard showing you exactly how your food, activity, stress, sleep, and other factors are impacting your blood glucose level. And that's invaluable information. Without it, basically, you're flying blind, guessing what's working and what's not. For example, say you have a breakfast one day and your post-meal blood sugar is 140 milligrams or 7.8. That's right on the threshold between normal and high levels, and ideally, you want to see this number below 140 milligrams or 7.8. So the next day you make a simple change. Maybe you skip the toast and add an extra egg for breakfast, and now your blood sugar is 115 milligrams per deciliter or 6.4 millimoles per litre. So that's real feedback that tells you, hey, this change really worked for me. So monitoring also helps you catch patterns you might not notice otherwise. Are your fasting levels consistently higher on mornings after a poor night's sleep? Do certain foods spike your blood sugar more than others? And knowing these details helps you make targeted changes instead of taking a one-size-fits-all approach. Now, if you're thinking, but isn't this just one more thing to add to my plate? Look, I understand the idea of pricking your finger might feel overwhelming, especially at first. But here's the thing. You don't have to monitor every single day or at every single meal. Even checking a couple of times a week can give you actionable insights. And I recommend focusing on your postprandial after meal levels as those are more closely tied to your A1C results. And the good news is blood glucose meters today are affordable, easy to use and widely available. You can pick one up at your pharmacy or online, and it's an investment in your health that really, truly pays off. Remember, the more you know about your blood sugar, the more you can do to improve it. And that's the kind of power we all want when it comes to our health.
Prediabetes. It's your opportunity to do something now and completely change your health for the better. With Dr. Jetta's Prediabetes Reset program, you'll discover how to reset your blood sugar balance and metabolism to normal, rebalance your weight effortlessly, and avoid or stop medications. Take the Prediabetes Reset program and gain back your life today. Learn more at type2diabetestalk.com/programs.
Now, let's shift to the second section of today's episode where we'll be hearing from someone who's been where many of you may find yourself now. Paul is one of our program participants who was diagnosed with prediabetes and decided to take action. His journey is full of valuable insights from the changes he made in his diet to the life lessons he learned along the way. And we don't sugarcoat things, so Paul shares some of his challenges too, as getting insights into these things is part of knowing the type of journey that may be ahead of you. I just want to add up front that Paul is from the UK, so when we talk about A1C levels, you might not understand the numbers he refers to if you live in the US or elsewhere, but after hearing his story, I'll highlight the numbers again in percentages so it all makes sense. Okay, let's dive in. So where did you kind of come into it, if we can kind of backtrack a bit, like what situation you found yourself in that led you to find us in the first place?
Yeah, no, I just got diagnosed pre-diabetic, and I didn't think that I had that bad a diet, and I was wasn't particularly overweight, and I try to keep fit, nothing massive. I'm 63 now, so.
Yeah. Okay, so you thought you were doing okay in terms of your health?
Yeah, I was pretty okay, doing okay. Sometimes you feel like at festive times you might indulge a bit, but not much. I go for a light jog twice a week. I do very lightweight twice a week. So I didn't think that would ever be an issue for me. There's no history in my family of diabetes at all. So.
Right. So your diagnosis must have come as a surprise then, Paul.
It was a little bit of a surprise to realise I was pre-diabetic. What I didn't realise also is that over the last 5 years, apparently I've been on very close to it. But when I did blood tests, the doctors don't tell you you're close to it. They just tell you it's in normal or it's not. And as soon as it gets in, they just say, yeah.
Yeah, right. That's pretty common. There's definitely lack of communication unless you're asking lots of questions. So what happened then? Did they offer you any advice?
I had a talk with a follow-up call from the local doctors, and they just mentioned that to some basic stuff, watch your diet, blah, blah, and so forth, so on. So I just looked online, really, and I saw your website, I think. So I thought it's a 16-week, was it a 16-week thing?
Yep, 16 weeks.
16-week course, so yeah.
Well, I'm glad you found us and you took the Prediabetes Reset program with the weekly videos and the resources and the action steps, right?
I think I listened to all the videos and kind of switched into all the six, not dead on time each week. I had to catch up a couple of times. But yeah, that was it really.
Oh, that's great, Paul. And what did you change in your life or, the way that you approach things?
Well, I think the big thing for me, the big shift for me, I guess, is look at the videos, you realise how all the supermarkets and the world is set up. Your diet is kind of set up, defaulted at processed stuff, and cakes, pastries, biscuits are the snacks, they're the standard snacks. And so all that was, when I looked at that, I thought, oh, no, it's not so much a surprise, because I've been doing that for years. And so, that's how, so you've got to go almost counter food cultural to reprogram, and look at everything and the carbs and all that sort of stuff.
I like how you put that, go counter food culture. It's just that we're so entrenched, right, into that processed foods now that we've kind of lost our way in terms of what's better for us to eat nutritionally. So you're so right there with what you've said. We need to make a mindset shift, and it's a type of kind of reprogramming ourselves in a way.
And as you get older also as well, I think your body does change, obviously, because you're getting older. And when you're younger, you don't really, as you're getting older, you kind of until your body tells you in some either an illness or something else, you like to feel like you want to just carry on as you are. But you've got to be wise. You've got to think, okay, yeah, I'm getting older, so your body does change.
Yep. For sure, our bodies do change as we get older, and we have to, like you said, be a bit wise and recognise that things are changing and get more proactive as we get older. So that's really great insight, Paul. And you've focused on improving your eating plan and changing things, obviously.
Porridge, I used to eat a big bowl of porridge every morning thinking that was great, it's good for the heart, but it's full of carbs, porridge, And so I've stopped eating porridge and I'm trying to buy more, just generally have salads more, vegetables. And ironically, a good, because it's a metabolic disease, I guess, by doing a bit better with that, my blood pressure's gone down. My blood pressure, because I've got a genetic heart condition, and it's very mild presentation, so it's okay. But my blood pressure was like 138, 140 over 88, 90, whatever, all that kind of thing. And the last couple of times I've done blood pressure, it's like 117, 118, over 72, whatever it is. Well, so that's good. That was an added, that naturally kind of kicks in. So that was just another sort of added sort of little benefit, I guess,
Yeah, like an added bonus. And that's really great to hear, Paul. So you've not only seen improvements in your blood sugar, but as a consequence of eating better, your blood pressure has improved as well. So that's great. And, this is common when following our guidelines. It's something we see pretty regularly. Not only are blood glucose levels improving, the A1C levels improving, but people experience lower blood pressure, improved cholesterol, etc. So it's really great to hear you've also experienced that as well. But coming back to blood sugar, what was your A1C when you first started?
So I was 41. I went up to 42 and I reversed back again after change into 41. I'm hoping to, which is on the higher end of normal, which is fine. So I want to try and get that down to 40 or 39 or something.
Yep. And I have no doubt that you will if you just keep on going with your new routine. And what about weight loss, Paul? Did you lose any weight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, initially it fell off. In fact, to the point where my stepmother and my wife, and you need to put weight back on. You're way, because I went a bit radical the first month or two just to give it that kickstart. And I think that's a good thing to do, actually, because I knew in my mind I wouldn't be quite this radical permanently, but it's good to start this way. And then you can always get back a little bit. You can always think, okay, you can always sort of settle into your living life, as you put it, mode. And that motivated me to think, let me just do it. Let me just go by the book, if you like, for a few months. And then I'll still obviously change, but so I did lose weight. Yeah. It was definitely around the stomach as well. So, and it's still off. Being conservative, I'd say at least 4, 5, 6 pounds. And also my belt, I could tell, when you got your belt, my belt went one runner. Even today, it's gone 2 runners down. But the belt it used to be at one stage. It's now at the very least on the next notch down. And probably even slightly to the next notch. Sometimes I do it slightly to the next notch down as well.
Okay, that's really interesting because often people say their weight loss is pretty effortless when they're following our program guidelines. So overall, though, these are pretty great results in 16 weeks. You've lost weight and, of course, you can rebalance that to where you feel comfortable over time, but you're back out of the pre-diabetes range, back to normal. And being at the higher end of normal, well, that's okay too. It's still normal. So by sustaining your new routine, you'll just keep improving your health.
I generally feel better, absolutely, as well,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And that's really great. And if there was other people, what would be your best advice to other people wanting to make a change in their lives? What would you suggest to them?
Well, I think the main thing for me would be to keep it simple, okay? Because it can be like, do this, do that, the other. Well, you just can't. So just the change itself was so much. I felt like I thought I could starve to death.
Yeah, certainly not going to starve to death, but understood. Definitely can all be overwhelming at first until you get your head around things.
Yeah, if you can just not be phased out by all that and persevere and know that's perfectly normal, then in the end, when you come through the other side, you look back and think, well, I'm glad. It's just having all the alternatives in place. I think that's the thing. Try, if you do that, I think that's the main thing. Keep it simple.
Yep. That's great advice, Paul. Keep it simple and persevere, especially in those early stages. And of course, the program is there to help you know what all those alternatives are and to help you keep it simple too. So that's one beneficial thing, of course, one advantage.
Yeah, you definitely got to stop and think about it and think through. You're so used to, and changing habits are tough. Initially, it's quite hard. So I definitely, my family were taking the mick out of me, to be honest, my son especially. And also that your shopping is all designed for one way, so it's definitely a shift. You've definitely got to make a conscious decision to think, right, I've got to think through this and change it. To begin with me, I just didn't eat the potatoes and pasta, and I stopped eating the biscuits and the stuff like that.
Yep, limiting foods at first, and especially avoiding the sugar and the processed stuff. That's a great strategy until you find those alternatives, and then making sure you have those snacks or those alternatives handy so that you can use those whenever you're hungry and to follow your new eating plan. So yeah, great stuff, Paul.
So it was a big shift initially. Yeah, you got to make a conscious decision, I think it through for you.
Yeah, that's right. And think it through for you and what habits you currently have, what food you're currently eating, how can you adjust that? Exactly.
Yeah, that sort of stuff, yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing Paul's story. And overall, it is such a great reminder of what's possible with focus and commitment. Let's recap Paul's great results. Paul took the Prediabetes Reset program, and in 16 weeks he lowered A1C from 6%, which is in the prediabetes range, back down to 5.9%, which is back to normal in the UK and most other places around the world. So in the US, a 5.7% is normal. And overall, Paul wants to aim to get his A1C levels even lower, and I'm sure he is going to do that. But in any case, where he lives, his 5.9% is back down to a normal level. Paul has lost 5 or 6 pounds, that's 2 to 3 kilos, and his blood pressure has improved a lot and he generally feels better. So overall, he's had such great outcomes and made fantastic headway here. And as he continues to implement his newfound eating routine, he will no doubt continue to see improvements. And Paul has now joined us as a VIP member, so we'll be checking in on him in future for a progress update. What stood out was Paul's advice about keeping things simple and not letting the process overwhelm you. That was especially insightful because it's normal to feel overwhelmed and like it's a lot at first because it is a lot. And thinking a new lifestyle change through for yourself is a process, sometimes a huge process and a learning curve as well. But you need to persevere. Paul chose a more radical approach at first, diving right in and really challenging himself. But even small, consistent steps are all you need to see great changes. Whether it's rethinking your shopping habits, finding alternatives for your favourite foods, or just taking the first step at all, it all adds up. So remember, you don't have to be perfect, but you do need to be persistent. So as you think about your own journey, remember that success doesn't happen overnight. Every change we make, it can take time, but it does happen when you take consistent action. And consistency is more important than perfection. I hope you found both parts of today's episode valuable. The first part about understanding and aiming for normal blood glucose levels, and the second part, hearing Paul's story. Remember, aiming for normal blood glucose levels is not just about avoiding type 2 diabetes, It's about living healthier, feeling better, and giving your body the optimal environment to thrive. And overall, Paul's journey highlights that with the right mindset and tools, such as we provide in the Prediabetes Reset program, reversing prediabetes and improving your health is absolutely achievable. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Dr. Jetta, over and out.
Thanks for tuning in to Type 2 Diabetes Talk. Please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform. And for episode replays, episode notes, and more, visit type2diabetestalk.com. New episodes are available Tuesdays, 10 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time, or your time zone equivalent. Thanks again. We're truly grateful to be a part of your life and help make a real difference.